In today's video, we're going to be doing a test to see which is better, the Mesa, the other Mesa, or the Crusader. Now, one costs $225,000, one costs $87,000, and the other one you can find on the street and get completely for free. You can also get this other off-roading Mesa completely for free if you call Merriweather and bring it into your garage. So two of them, technically you can get for free, and this other one, the Army version of the Jeep, you have to spend $225,000 to purchase. So let's go and do a test and see which one is truly the best. First, let's start off with a little drag race. All the vehicles start off at the exact same time, and you can see the 0 to 60 times are fairly similar, with the off-roading version of the Mesa in first, the regular version, then the Crusader, which then again costs $225,000. And in terms of the results, the off-roading version finishes first, then the regular version, and then the Army variant. So you could see there's a pretty significant difference in which one will win in the end in terms of just a straight quarter-mile drag race, obviously being the off-roading version of the Jeep. Next up, let's do a suspension test. And we're going to do it the same way we did it last time with some of these logs, starting off small logs, then moving on to doubles, and then the triples. If any of these vehicles can make it over a triple log, like that thing is pretty damn high. If any of them can make it over it, that's pretty damn good. So let's start off with the Army version of the Jeep. You can see it's kind of does normally. I don't know really what this street car was doing. This guy was just driving over the logs like he was also in this race. Don't really know why, but street cars just decide to pull up for no damn reason all the time in this game. Anyways, let's keep going with this test once again. So let's take it a little bit slower this time. You can see going over the logs, it does a pretty decent job. The car does shake a lot. You can see once it gets to the double logs, it does start to have a couple of issues. It's not a super high vehicle, so it's definitely going to have some issues. And going to the triple log, yeah, the thing just smacks right into it. There's no chance it's going to get over that. But the double logs, it doesn't do the worst thing. You can see I just went back over it, and it still drove directly over it. But then sometimes it has an issue where it can't drive over backwards. I'm pretty sure most vehicles can drive over the double logs as long as they're on an angle and not going straight back, because obviously the rear bumper does get in the way. But like I said, the vehicle does shake a lot while going over small little bumps, which isn't the best thing. That's not really something you want from a great, Jeep, because it's a Jeep. You expect it to have pretty decent suspension since they're known for their off-roading capabilities, so you're obviously going to be driving over some pretty rough terrain. So the Crusader does not do the best job on the suspension test, but it also is not terrible. Now let's test out the regular version of the Jeep. This is the one you can find on the street. It pretty much performs the exact same way compared to the Crusader, because they're both the exact same vehicle. One just has an Army camo on it. So they pretty much perform the exact same on this test, and in all honesty, in terms of their stability, it's not that great. They both shake a ton while going over these smaller logs. Unlike other off-road vehicles, they'll literally just go right over them. You can see the wheels bouncing around and they have no issues whatsoever. So these two vehicles, I would give them a solid 5 out of 10 because they're not terrible, but they're also not great. They're just average. Next up, let's test out the off-roading version of the Mesa. Now, this one does not do as bad as the other two Jeeps, but it still has a couple issues. The one main issue that I saw is going to be that whole roll cage. It's connected everywhere. And the biggest issue is the front ball bar or front grille. You can see how big that thing is, and it extends pretty low underneath the frame of the vehicle, or I guess the body of the vehicle. And you're going to see right here why that's an issue. It could have fully made it over this double log, but because of that front grille in the way, it just can't. Now, other off-roading vehicles, you have the ability to edit that. Like, for instance, the Camacho. You could put a grill on it that is angled, so if it faces any kind of challenges like double logs, I guess, or just a big log while off-roading, or a rock, it will kind of just drive right over it because of the angled grill. But because you cannot edit the roll cage on this vehicle or edit anything on the body except for the color, that brings up the one and only issue pretty much with this thing. So it's still pretty decent. In terms of the rating for this vehicle, I would say it's a solid 7.5. Some other off-roading vehicles are amazing. They do a great job on this test. But the Jeeps are just not that great. And I would really love it if Rockstar added a proper version of a Jeep to this game, even though these ones all look like Jeeps. They are Jeeps. They're just old. They've been in the game since the game came out, and they're just not that great. So we definitely need one that we can customize a little bit more, has a little bit better performance and things like that. But in terms of the suspension test, they're all not the best. Like I said, this Mesa gets a 7.5 out of 10, and then the other two get a solid 5. Next up, we're going to do a climb test. Each of the vehicles are going to drive up as high as they can on this ramp, and we'll see what happens. Once they get to the point where they cannot go any further, I'm going to freeze the vehicle so you guys can see exactly how different every single one is. Usually I do an off-roading test on the side of a mountain, but I could tell all of these vehicles would not perform that well on that test, so I just decided not to do it. So the original Mesa, or just the regular version, does pretty decent. All of these vehicles are fully upgraded as much as I could possibly upgrade them, and you can see it does a pretty damn good job. I did not expect it to get this far up this ramp. You would have assumed it would have done a little bit worse. Now let's test out the off-roading version of the Mesa. I want to see how much better of a job this does. Now, this version is also fully upgraded, but I feel like there's a little bit of an issue. Since it's a little higher, it doesn't have enough power, or I don't really know, but for some reason, it just cannot pass where the original Mesa was. Maybe because it's higher up, I don't know, but it does not pass that point. And like I said, they're fully maxed out. So this version of the vehicle only made it this far. Not a huge difference, but still, for an off-roading version of the Jeep, you would expect it to climb just a little bit better than the regular version, but sadly, it just cannot. Now let's test out the Army version of this Jeep and see how well this one performs. We're going to do the exact same thing, drive at the top, and then freeze the vehicle when it can no longer climb any further. And this one does a terrible job. For $225,000, that's pretty trash. It ends up going right here. So taking a look at all three of these vehicles, you can see the original version goes the highest, then the off-roading version, and then the Crusader, which is significantly lower than both of the other two. The biggest issue with the Crusader is the fact that you can't modify a single thing on it. So that means it has no engine, transmission, or any kind of upgrades whatsoever. So that's a huge downside. You're paying $225K. It's the most expensive out of all of these vehicles, and you cannot upgrade it, which kind of sucks. So let's do the test again without any upgrades. All right, so here we are again, back on the ramp. All of the vehicles are completely stock. There's not a single upgrade on any of them, and we're going to perform the test the exact same way, starting off with the off-roading version of the Mesa. You could see it does start driving up, but once it actually hits the ramp, it just dies, and it goes super, super slow. Now, normally, if you guys were driving any of these vehicles, you would upgrade them. But since one of them has no modifications, you cannot modify even the window tint, so you're driving around in the fishbowl, we have to do the test just to see if it's any better than these other two vehicles. So let's take a look at the regular version of the Mesa. It makes it right behind the off-roading version. It's kind of surprising that the fact that the regular version does better when it's fully upgraded compared to the fully upgraded version of the off-roading vehicle. Doesn't make too much sense to me. I don't really know. But now let's test out the Crusader. We did this whole test just for this vehicle, so it better do better, especially since it's $225,000. You could see it actually doesn't do terrible. It makes it just a little bit higher than the off-roading version of the Mesa. But is that worth $225K? It's all of these vehicles are stock, so like that's the best that the Crusader can actually do, which is pretty sad, in my opinion at least. Just to show you how bad all of these Jeeps are and why we desperately need an upgrade, this is a completely stock version of the Camacho. Take a look at how well this vehicle does. It actually drives to the top. It doesn't go fast. It's under 10 miles per hour the entire time after this point going up this ramp. But still, it's completely stock and manages to still drive all the way to the top of this ramp with no issues, while each of those other Jeeps did terrible, and they had no chance of making it to the top whatsoever, which is why we desperately need an upgrade in terms of a single Jeep that we could customize a lot. I would love to take a Jeep into Benny's and just make it look sick. And I bet a bunch of other people would also love to do that. It doesn't have to just be lowriders, doesn't have to just be supercars or sports cars. Some off-roading vehicles look epic. Imagine taking a truck in there, like for instance the Caracara, or even a Bison. Just a regular truck you would see driving around on the streets, taking it in there and making it look amazing like some of those crazy trucks you see in real life. There's a ton of other vehicles that we could have in this game that would look awesome in Benny's with some cool customizations. But yeah, take a look at the Camacho, guys. Like, fully stock, made it to the very top of this ramp. We need a new Jeep. I'm just going to say that. So in the end, which one is the best? Obviously, the off-roading version of the Mesa does the best job. Then the regular version, then the Crusader. The Crusader is terrible. You can't upgrade it. It costs $225,000. If you see any kind of military personnel driving them on the roads, you cannot take it and store it inside of your garage. It's just terrible, and it performed the worst in every single one of these tests. The regular version of the Mesa, it honestly didn't do terrible. It's second place. But the off-roading version obviously did the best out of them all. Not saying it's the best in the game, because it's definitely not, but comparing these three Jeeps, obviously the off-road version is the best. And the fact that you can get the regular version of the Mesa and the off-roading Mesa completely free by just finding it on the street or calling Merriweather is a massive upside. And the fact that you can customize them even just a little bit by putting performance upgrades, changing the window tint, and also just changing the color and the rims makes a pretty big difference. So it's kind of sad to see that the Crusader costs $225,000. You can't keep it unless you buy it from Pegasus, and you cannot modify it. I just think it's a terrible Jeep, and I don't really know why we can even buy it if we cannot modify it whatsoever. I don't really care about the customizations. I'm just talking about the engine. Like, we can't make it any faster. How it is how it is. So I guess it is what it is. Anyways, that's pretty much going to wrap up the video for today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's any other vehicles you want to see me test out, be sure to comment them down below in the comment section. With that said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.